Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast, where we remind our guests that survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. I forgot to say something else. Let me start over. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast, where we remind our guests that with God, through it all, you can survive. And remember that survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. Before we get started, I want you to do something. I want you to go in and like, share, and subscribe to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. And once you've done that, I want you to follow me on all my social media platforms at Gail Estella. Where are you tuning in from? I'm here at Aiken, South Carolina. Let us know where you're tuning in from and drop it in the comment box below. And lastly, have you purchased your copy of Through It All? Through It All by Gail Estella. If you haven't, you can go to truevinepublishingcompany.org, amazon.com, and where all books are sold. For the month of May, our guests will be sharing their journeys on loss, healing. For the month of May, our guests will be sharing their journeys on loss, healing, and mental health. For those that have lost a child, the love remains, the memories live on, and their names matter. So we're getting ready to get started today with my guest. You know what? I was supposed to have me by myself while I did all this.
No, and then put me on.
Okay. Let me start over.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast, where we remind our guests that through it all Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast, where we remind our guests that with God, through it all, you can survive. And remember that survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. And before we get started, I need you to do something for me. I need you to go in and like, share, and subscribe to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. And once you've done that, where are you tuning in from? Let us know where you're from. Put it in the comment box where are you tuning in from? Put it in the comment box below. I'm here in Aiken, South Carolina. And please go in and follow me on all of my social media platforms. And please go in and follow me on all of my social media platforms. I'm sorry, Franncis.
That's okay.
And please go in and follow me on all of my social media platforms. And please go in and follow me on all of my social media platforms at Gail Estella. And have you purchased your copy of Through It All by Gail Estella? If you haven't, it's not too late. You can go to truevinepublishingcompany.org, amazon.com, and where all your books are sold. For the month of May, our guests will be sharing their journeys on loss, healing, and mental health. For the month of May, our guests will be sharing their journeys on loss, healing, and mental health. For those that have lost a child, their memories live on, the love never ends, and their names matter. Yeah. After the loss of a child, their name, I'm so nervous, Franncis.
I don't know. Just do your thing like you've been doing.
I know. Oh gosh. For the month of May, our guests will be sharing their journeys on love. For the month of May, our guests will be sharing their journeys on loss, healing, and mental health. For those that have lost a child, the love remains, their memories live on, and their names matter. And we're going to get started with my guest today, Miss Franncis Wherry. Hello, Franncis.
Hey, hello. Thank you so much. I want to thank you kindly for the invite to share my experience and my story and to keep my son's name alive, Mitchell Jeter.
Okay, and before we do that, we're going to go back. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back. Hello, Francis, because I'm going to ask you to call his name. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, and here we are today with my guest, Franncis Wherry. How are you doing, Francis?
I'm doing fine, thank you. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for
And
the
before
kind
we get,
invite.
you are so welcome. And before we get started, their names matter. Call your son's name. Call it loud, like a mother's love.
Mitchell Jeter.
Mitchell Jeter. Mitchell Jeter.
Yes.
I remember Mitchell. I remember Mitchell. How was your Mother's Day?
I think Mother's Day, since he passed, is always challenging. It's always something missing. I have other children, but nobody can replace him. So it's always like it feel like a heavy burden that you walk around with, you know. And sometimes you notice it, especially when it's a holiday or something going on.
Yeah,
But
Mother's
other than
Day.
that, yes, my other kids tried to make it enjoyable and memorable. So,
Wow, wow, that's good. So let's talk about Mitchell. Tell the audience about Mitchell. Who is Mitchell? Who is Mitchell?
Mitchell, I tell you, he was an extraordinary young man. He always he was smart. He was kind. He was funny. He he loved people, and people loved him. And he had the smile that would light up a room. Everybody remember him by his smile. When they talk about him, they talk about his smile. He was the young man that if he would shake your hand, he's going to look you in the eye.
Yes.
That's the type person he was. He was
Citadel grad.
Yeah, Citadel, and he went to Montreal for the Canadian League for a little stint before he was cut, and he was actually getting ready to go into the Army. He wanted to go into Special Forces. So I was afraid of that because in my mind I was thinking, hey, something could happen while he's over there. So never thought that he would pass before leaving to go into the service.
So tell us, if you don't mind sharing, tell us about the way that Mitchell passed.
Mitchell was involved in a car accident. He had been to visit family in Union, South Carolina, because he was actually going to see them to tell them, hey, bye, I see, just in case I don't see y'all again before I go into the service. Just telling his family bye on his dad's side. And he was on his way back because he had to get to a bachelor party, get to a bachelor's party at his cousin. And that's when the accident occurred. At first they said it was the other car's fault. Then they said it was his fault because he overcorrected. So not only did Mitchell pass in that accident, 3 other people passed in the accident in the other car. So not only do I have grief for my son, I have, and I had grief and guilt for the other people that were involved. And it's almost was like, when I grieve, it was almost like, should I be grieving? Like, at what degree? Because this family lost 3 people, you lost 1. But then I learned that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that was my son.
That was your son. That's your son. And I remember being at church, and we were upstairs. I worked with the youth, and all these text messages started going off. And Pastor Crump announced it in the church, and he said that Pastor McCrae's son had just been killed, and everybody was like, because Asia had passed a couple of months or some months before Mitchell. So I was still having that heaviness on my heart. And when he said Pastor McCrae's son, I'm like, that's Franncis, that's Franncis, baby. And I could just remember my heart dropping, for you having to experience what it was that you were, getting ready to experience. And, when you're saying in the car accident, were you able? So tell us about when you got the phone call.
Well,
how many hours after was it that you received the phone call?
Yeah, well, I actually had spoken to Mitchell at 8:21 p.m. that day. I was at my mom's house. And so we talked on the phone, and he was on his way then to the bachelor party. So, of course, before we always would hang up, we would say, I love you. And so that's the last words that was said. So I never had to guess, because at first I was like, what did I say to him last? But when I thought about, I did talk to him on the phone, it was, I love you and be careful. And my mom said the same thing to him. The accident had to happen after I spoke with him, probably around 8:45-ish. But we didn't find out till around 11, about 11 o'clock that night. I was out, and my mom called me and said, did you hear that Mitchell had been in an accident? And I was like, no, I didn't. The girls had called her because they heard the police at the door talking about the accident. But then they said that he was okay. Everybody was okay. But so that's what the girls told my mom. So I rushed home. And by that time, people were calling me like, you need to come home. I'm going. And I was thinking, like, why would I come home? I need to go to the hospital. Which hospital is he in? And they kept on saying, just come home first, and then we'll go to the hospital, whatever. I'm going like, no, let me go to the hospital. But in my heart, I knew something I knew something wasn't right, because why would I have to go home first? And then when I pulled up, the police was there and the coroner. But I didn't realize it was a coroner's truck at the time. And and that's when they told me that he was in an accident. And I still didn't believe it, because it was like, no, this can't be true. Maybe somebody stole his car, So you start going through all the scenarios in your mind that, no, this can't be. I just talked to him.
The denial
of it all. So they did they gave me his driver's license, and I still was thinking, no, it still can't be true. So I didn't believe it until they let me go to the morgue the next day. They really not supposed to let you go, but I, talked to someone. I say, I need to see him. And they let me go. And for some reason, when I went there and saw him, I did get a peace, because I could tell he was peaceful and that he did not suffer. When I saw him, I knew that from when I looked at him. Wow. And so after I left there, because before going there, my mind was just like in the uproar. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I had to go to the doctor, get something to sleep. I was up 2 days. My body was, my mind was all over the place. But then I did get a peace once I saw him, and I knew he did not. And they told me, it was instant.
So you said he was getting ready to go into the service, and he was supposed to be going into service soon after that, right? A couple of days, right?
It was actually, the accident was September the 9th, but he wasn't going to leave until September the 25th.
Okay, I knew it was
something like that. It was the same month and everything. Yeah.
And so you said earlier that you were hesitant about him joining the special services, because we know that that's elite form of the military, special services, and the best of the best. And you were hesitant about that because you were concerned about him getting hurt or something happening to him.
Yeah. In my mind, I was concerned about him leaving, because I was like, what if something happened to him over there? And I'm going through all the scenarios in my head of what could happen. And, you know, when I was talking to Mitchell, I was like, why are you going into service? Why did you choose? He said, well, that's what I've always wanted to do. It's not because like the football didn't work out. That was, you know, what I want to do. And so I was like, what if something happened to you? And he said, well, Mama, either way, I'm okay. No matter what, I am okay. And when I think about the conversations that we had, like about 2 weeks before his death, it was almost like he knew something. Wow. And when you think about it, he told me, we were just talking that day when we was talking about the service, and he said, Mom, you know, I have lived a good life. And I said, why would you say that? I said, you talking like
a young age. How old was he?
23.
Right. Yeah. Such a young age.
Like, I said, you talking like an old man. And he said, no. He said, I'm just saying, I've lived a good life. I think over my life, and I've lived a good life. And I'm going like, well, you got plenty of living to do. So, you know, and just put it off to that. But I guess he was letting me know at that time that he was going to be all right, no matter what. And of course, I didn't get it at the time until after he passed. And then I started thinking about the conversations and things that had taken place. So that's when I was like, wow.
Did Mitchell know God?
Yes. And you know what happened? The Sunday before his accident, which happened that Saturday, he went to Elevation and he gave his life to the Lord. And I was there because I kept on calling him. When I kept on texting him when I was in church, I'm going like, you need to come. We're having a nice service. He didn't respond. Little did I know he was already in the church somewhere. And when I saw him that day, he had a Bible, you know, the Bible that they give you when you rededicate yourself. And he had the Bible, and I looked, I'm going like, you have a Bible? I said, you was at church? He said, yes, ma'am. And I said, Mitch, you gave your life to the Lord? He's like, yes, ma'am, I rededicated my life. That was Sunday. On Saturday, he was gone.
Oh, okay. So when we think about divine order, and when we think about how strategic God is,
yes,
and how good God is, and how, you know, the Bible says that, you know, our life is already planned out. God knew. And like you said, maybe he knew. But the fact that he gave his life to God in just enough time, you know, because I can remember someone telling me that they didn't know where their child's soul was. Their child had died. And they said, at least you know where Asia is. I don't know where my child's soul is.
Oh, wow.
So that has to be a bad place to be. Not know where your soul, where your child's soul is dwelling. And basically, if they haven't given their life to God, regardless of who they are, we know that they're not in heaven. So for him to give his life to God right before he passed, that just makes me think how strategic and intricate God is. Yeah. And so a lot of times when we try to think about stuff, and I know it's sad, but then think about the good things like that. Does that make you feel better?
Yes, it does. It makes me feel better that that I know that he gave his life to the Lord, and that he was, and like I say, thinking about conversations and different things, he was preparing himself for whatever he was going to have to go through.
Wow.
So
you said we go back to the accident that initially you thought it was the other car's fault, and you found out it was your son's fault. It was Mitchell's fault, and the guilt.
Yes, I had a lot of guilt, thinking about the family and what they were going through, and I didn't reach out. Somebody in our family did, but I didn't. I just didn't have enough strength. Be honest with you, I didn't have enough strength to do anything I thank God for people that were here to pray for me because I couldn't even pray for myself. And to be honest with you, I didn't even want to pray. I was so angry with God.
Were you angry?
Yes, I was angry. And even at the service, and in church, and I was like sitting there and I'm just like, I just kind of like, I didn't even want to be there. I didn't want to hear anything about the Bible. I really didn't. I'm just being honest with you. And I'm sure a lot of people get into this.
I feel the same way. So why were you angry with God?
Because I felt like losing my son. And I saw that like everybody else that I see, I'm looking at the news, all these people killing folks and doing this and that. And they still living and doing what they want to do. So I was like, look at there. I'm looking at it like, why are they still living? Why do they get to live and my son is gone? So
you had a good son. He was a good boy.
He was like my best friend. Really.
So are you still angry with God?
No, but God and I do not have the same relationship like I did a long time ago. So it's just like kind of building up to it. And I know that I need to get, a better relationship with God. But I admit that, and I've been going to church and, trying to get more spiritual things. And, and I did, rededicate myself as well. But it's just like, I don't know. It's been a hard road for me spiritually.
So the God that you know, the God that you knew before Mitchell passed, do you think he understands? Yeah,
he understands. He knew I was going to be angry. And he knew I was going to go through all this. And so I think he understands. He gave him, he gave you grace and time to, get it together. Why he passed, I don't know, but only God knows. The reason why he left at that time. Then I think about it. I say, what if he was in the service and end up being like a prisoner of war, or we never got his body back? Things like that come to my mind too, because I knew how he was, and he was always trying to be the hero. So if anything was going on, he was going to try to be the hero, and do something, to help people. So,
and not knowing how God protects us, because I know I can't say I was ever angry with God, because our stories are different. Mitchell was taken, the car accident where Asia was sick and I was able to be there with her. But I didn't understand, I would ask God, this is my only child. And again, there's so many other people out here doing so many bad things. And this child loves you and she honors you and she's a good person. And you healed her from cancer.
Yes. So why now? Like,
why would you allow her to get sick and to the point of dying? And then when you talk about, we don't know what God is protecting us from, because sometimes I think about, well, what if the cancer would have come back? And, and she was in school to be a speech pathologist. And, after that, you have to go to grad school, and you're a nurse. So, with brain cancer comes cognitive issues. And what if her cognitive issues or the cognitivity might have started to diminish more and she wasn't able to make it through grad school? What would have happened? So I just like, I don't know. Or if he would have allowed her to live with her lungs in the capacity that they were.
Yeah.
It would have been a good quality of life. Yeah. So we don't know what God is protecting.
I don't know. And then like with Mitchell too, like in the accident, like even going on my way home, when I knew it had been an accident, I didn't know what condition Mitchell was in. I didn't know if he was alive or whatnot. I did tell the Lord, just make sure that he's there. I don't care if I have to carry him, put him in, take care of him. I do whatever needs to be done. I just need for him to be here. And then that was a selfish prayer from me, because Mitchell is like a free-spirited person. He would have never wanted to live that way. And then especially if other people died in the accident, he wouldn't have been able to handle that.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't know how, why, and
Mm-hmm.
ooh,
So it's deep.
So what about when you said the guilt?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any ever point in time that you were angry with him for, I mean, whatever might have caused the accident? Was there ever a time that you might have been angry with him or questioned, well, what were you doing? Or
Yeah, I was a little angry with him. Not, I was like, why was he driving fast? Or
Mhm.
that long road and coming around the curve, and that was a
It's such a dark road.
yeah, and it's a dip, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so I was, but not really at him. I was just I was like, and then I thought about, I was like, why Mitchell, like, why did this have to happen at this point? So just not understanding, and he was at a good point of it in his life with
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
two
Mm-hmm.
girls, one
Mm-hmm.
raising,
Mm-hmm.
and a fiance, and just a good all around person. So I just couldn't understand the whole thing
Whole
of it.
concept of it. Yeah.
Mm.
So you are a mother to two other
Yeah,
daughters.
yeah,
Were you
they are.
still married at the time?
No, we were divorced.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was
So
divorced at
how was it having to grieve? Because Mitchell is your first. And how many years is it between Mitchell and Michaela?
10 years.
10 years. So for 10 years,
It was just Mitchell and
it's
I.
just
Yeah,
you and Mitchell.
yeah, yeah. Like my
Yeah.
little best friend, like my little bestie. It was just like, um, he was very respectable young man. Even like his teachers at his school in Rock Hill High, uh, Judy Mobley, the principal, just loved him, because he just loved people. He was a people's person. He could stand up and talk. He could get along with anybody. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
care your social, economic level,
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
race, anything, your culture. He was able to get along with anybody. He could make
He
conversation.
was so manable, and like you
Yes,
said, respectful. Yes, ma'am.
yes,
And his presence and his
mm,
stance, it
yeah.
didn't go unnoticed.
No,
If he
did not.
walked in the room or when he walked in the room, you
Yeah,
had to notice him.
you
He
had to
just
notice
had
him.
that air and presence about him, even as a young man. And
Yes,
even more once he went through military school and
yeah,
college and everything, he just wore that
yeah.
badge of
He
honor on.
did,
Yeah, he did.
did, and
He did.
yeah. So,
He
and he was
did.
more like, for his sisters. I think he was more kind of like a father figure, even though they
Mm-hmm.
have fathers, they have
Mm-hmm.
their dad, but he was like a father. Like, he would, things that I probably would let them do, he would come and say, "No, mom, they can't do that." He was that
Mm-hmm.
type person. So he's just, and I think about him with his daughter, how it would be if he was here with his daughters. So, Ava was 2 when he passed, and
I
Aaron was,
remember. Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
remember him, but they know him from picture. Like, you
Just
can pull out a picture,
mm-hmm.
anything. They know their dad, and they know the
Mm-hmm.
story about him. So
Mm-hmm.
we keep his
Mm-hmm.
name alive with him.
So how was grieving, having to grieve your son and still having to be a mother to 2 daughters that had just lost their oldest brother and
Mhm.
lost, like you said, their father figure. How was that in the household?
Well, to be honest, Gail, I didn't grieve properly because I had to be strong for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
had to be that because I knew at the time, if I broke, everybody's watching me, that if anything happened, that everybody else was gonna, wouldn't be able to handle it. So I had to push that grief aside and be there, be a mother to my other children. and to keep them together and keep them strong. And I think that's what kind of took my mind off of a lot. I was sad, and I always look in the tell you the truth. My kids would tell me I could be watching TV, and they were like, "Mom, are you crying?" Because I would cry, and then sometimes I just randomly cry. But sometimes I wouldn't even be crying, and then they'll look at me because I guess I had such sadness on my face
all the time.
That they, thought I was, crying.
And so what I'm hearing from you is strength. Because with me, I didn't have to worry about anyone else. It was just me. Yeah. So I could grieve, and I could grieve the way I needed and wanted to. So what I'm hearing from you is strength. Because you said that you had to think about your children, a mother's love. You had to think about your 2 daughters, the 2 grandkids, while being angry with God. But even though you were angry with God, God still gave you what you needed at that time to endure what it was that you were going through. And He still gave you what you needed at that time to be a mother for your kids.
And that's true. He did, even through my anger, and He knew that I was mad enough.
He was probably like, "Let me go on, get this girl."
Like, I'm not going to church anymore. Yeah, and He still was there. I guess He was like, "That's my daughter. She." But yeah, so trying to be so strong, and at that time, having to be there for everybody. I see, like, I was not suicidal. I was sad. I was not suicidal, but I was so sad that I didn't care if something happened to me. Do you know what I'm saying? I wasn't gonna do anything, but I didn't care about them.
I understand.
Because my mind,
go ahead.
In my mind, I was like, God, why you could have taken me? Why didn't you take me? And you could have left him. But of course, we have our own, way of thinking. But I was ready. Like, I would have trade places with him in a heartbeat. There was no questions asked.
Yeah, I would have to. So I know for me, I felt with, me being in recovery, that if I tried to mask my pain by going back to substance use, that I wouldn't come back from it. Yeah. Because I didn't feel I had anything to live for. So I knew if I allowed myself to sink too much, that I wouldn't have the energy or the strength or the willingness to come back. So I had to keep myself afloat. So during your time, was there any vices or anything that you turned to mask the pain? Or because I know I ate cake, people made cakes for me. So I ate a lot of cake. I couldn't do the drugs. I couldn't drink. I couldn't do anything with that. So I'm like, okay, people that knew me, I had cake. I would eat cake. That's all I ate, cake. And I slept. And I remember going days without showering. And I remember Adrian saying one day, "Dirty butt, get up and take your shower. Look at you dirty behind. Get up and take a shower." And I managed to get up and I took a shower and I called back.
Yeah, because you don't feel like, people don't realize you do not feel like doing anything, nothing at all. I remember I would go to the bar more after that. And I realized, because I never like to go places by myself, but I would go to the bar and sit there by myself and, have a drink or whatever. And then finally, one day I was thinking, I'm going like, this is not me, And I know Mitchell wanted me to be happy. He wanted me to be, healthy. And I was just like, I had to try to, change my my routine and things like that. But I tell you, in one instance, I'm gonna tell you how heavy it can be on you. Like when I had to go get a dress for the funeral, and I remember at the mall and just walking there, and I had my purse on my shoulder, and I remember the purse felt too heavy for me to carry. that I had to take it off and give it to somebody to carry because I couldn't even carry that purse. And it was just like,
the load.
Yes. Just a
So
heavy load.
why? So how do you think, and we don't know God, but what do you think God's thinking is? And I know his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts, but how he chooses the ones that he chooses to carry the burdens, to carry the pain that we have had to carry.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you think we his strong soldiers.
And then we can.
I guess sometimes we don't even know how strong we are until you do something.
Till you go
and then you start ministering, like when you went through with Asia, and not long after you was able to come, you came here to the house when Mitchell passed. And we start ministering to other people because you start noticing a lot of people losing their children, whether it's through accidents, suicide, or sickness or illness or whatever.
Gunfire.
Gun violence. And it's just like, and then you're trying to minister to them. And then you hate anytime I hear that a child has passed or I see something and I'm going like, I start instantly thinking about that mother. And I'm going like, oh my God, I know how she feel at this point. Because you feel like you're in a nightmare and you're just trying to wake up from it. Like when you wake up from it and the next morning, when you're finally able to get some sleep, you wake up and you was hoping that it's just been a terrible dream that you were stuck in.
And then reality sets in again.
And reality sets in because that person is not there.
So you've lived 50 plus years. Is there anyone on this earth that you've come across in your 53 years that you would want them to feel this pain, to feel this burden?
No, ma'am. Not even my worst enemy. I don't wish this pain on anybody. Losing a parent, like I lost my dad in 2011. I thought that was the worst pain, because I was close to my dad. But losing a child does not compare to anything that I've ever felt. It just doesn't, because it's not the natural order of things. Sure. How we think it should be, but yeah.
One of my friends, she's a substance abuse counselor, and she said that she had been counseling this young lady. The young lady was about 27, and she said her daughter died 2 years ago when she was 25, and she said for 2 years the young lady had been drinking every day because of the pain being so great.
Wow.
And I could understand it.
Yeah, I can. I completely understand it.
You just don't want to feel. So how important, because you say you were angry with God, but how important was it that you knew God? What do you think would have happened or could have happened if you didn't know God?
Oh, wow. If I didn't know him, I probably wouldn't be here. And I see how some people can lose a child and next thing you know, they have a heart attack or something and die. I can see how that can happen because you can die of a broken heart, and it's ultimate hurt that you will ever feel in your life.
So with you being a nurse, have you ever experienced that? Have you seen that?
Broken heart.
Isn't it a broken heart syndrome or something?
Yeah, it's another name that they call. I forgot the scientific name of it. I've seen people come to the hospital after losing somebody and had to be admitted to the heart unit, and because of their heart, and it was broken heart syndrome. But they, some of them made it through. But I was reading different articles and different things. Of course, when you have somebody that passed, then you start reading more, and it's like you find other people who's gone through, and the mom, especially, I think it's something about moms.
No, this isn't it.
And that they, pass on not shortly after that they lose a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then you, like for me, having other kids, and I start being more protective of them
Mm-hmm.
because I'm afraid to feel that again.
So do you think your reign has been too tight on them? Have they had to say, Mama, loosen up a little bit, or?
I think at first it was, and then I
Mm-hmm.
had to realize I can't, it's in the
Mm-hmm.
Lord's hand. I can't do anything about it. And because I hear of other people who's lost two kids, they lost a kid, and then again, I was like, so that's something that I know is possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I pray that I don't have to go through that
Don't have
again.
to experience it. So you're raising Ava. Ava's
Yeah,
how old now? 7?
9.
Is she
She'll be,
9?
yeah, she
So
is 9.
how is that? How is that? Because I think about I don't have a legacy. My legacy stopped ended with Asia. You have your
Mm-hmm.
girls, and they're doing wonderful in school, and they're doing very well. Clemson grads, and
Yeah.
they're just polite, and as polite
Mm-hmm.
as Mitchell was, and you have Ava. So how is that to see your son,
Yeah.
that I can still have a part of him, and I
Yeah.
can still parent a part of him, and protect a part of him, and be a
Mhm.
mother to a part of him? How
Yeah.
is that for you?
I love it. I love that I have her. Now, as you get older and you're raising kids, and sometimes I'm like, Mitchell, you need. So, but it's good to see part of him in her and part of him in my other grand Aaron. And
Mm-hmm. How
Aaron
is
is,
Aaron now?
she's 8, and
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
she is exactly like him.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, she's so much like him that it's like, Lord, so what did you like? You gave me another Mitchell, from her. But and then I feel sad because I think about them. They'll never have their dad to walk
Mm-hmm.
them down the aisle. They'll be there when they, graduate high school and things like that. So all I can do is the best that I can do for them. And then raising Ava, like I say, I don't have all the energy that I had when I had my other kids. But then I try to, you know, do something, gung up my energy just because I don't want her to be shortchanged just because her
Right.
dad's not
Mm-hmm.
here for her.
Mm-hmm. So what about mental health? You're in the medical profession, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
So how important is that we maintain our mental health and we take care of our mental health during loss, because we're talking about loss?
Mm-hmm.
What ways, after, because I don't know how many people thought about mental health immediately after the loss of someone,
Mm-hmm.
but were there any things that you did to maintain your mental health, your girls' mental health,
Mm-hmm.
or
Um,
anything that you do now?
yeah, we did try to do some counseling right after, but my issue, which I had at the time, because I was rebelling every way that I
Mm-hmm.
could. And I'm going to counseling like they don't know how I feel. They don't know what I'm going through. They hadn't lost a child, So, but it's easier to talk to someone who has been through, the same situation. So, but I think what we did was we kind of stayed busy and kind of leaned on each other and family support.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do advise people to get into counseling as soon as they can and to stay with it. And if they have a counselor that, hey, it's a mixed match, make sure that you can request another one, and then get
Mm-hmm.
somebody that works better with your personality and things like that. But I think if I had really gotten into my counseling and into my Bible and things, I would have been, a whole lot further along, just because but I was kind of rebelling in every way because I was so mad for a very long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So only thing it did was kind of slow me down and hurt me by being so mad and
Oh,
angry.
yeah, the progress. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But my girls are currently in counseling now, because the older they get, they miss their brother. They love him because he was just like a little daddy to them. And then they think about, Mom, imagine now if Mitch was here, what he'd be doing. He'd be so proud. I know he would be proud.
Oh, like yes.
Yeah. So, but they both are in counseling now. So, which is good. Because they're in college, that transition and all that.
Yeah. Do you still have a relationship with the grandbaby's mother, his fiance?
Yes.
Mom?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yes, we have a wonderful relationship. It's almost like God gave me another daughter.
Right.
So how I feel about her. And she was the one. She was the one for him. And she loved him unconditionally. And to me, that was important to know that he found true love before he left this earth. He was able to do a lot of,
in those short 23 years.
He was able to do a lot of things. And we look back at different things, and he experienced everything. His life, like I told him when he told me that he had a good life, I said, some people are never able to say that, those words, that they have lived a good life. And I said, at 23, you're able to say that. I said, that's wonderful. And so it's just been, it's been a challenge, but then at the same time, we learning how to get through. But yes, I thank God for my extended family, with Sedaria, and she's an amazing mother to Aaron. So.
Wow. And you think about 23 years, age was 21. And to know that they were loved, because you said the last thing you said to him was, I love you.
Yep.
And I know that was the last thing I said to Asia, I love you. So, because when we think about the woulda, coulda, shoulda, I could have done this, I should have done this, at least our children knew that they were loved.
They were loved. Yes, they knew that.
Yeah, and that's so important, because that's not everybody's story.
That's not every. I know.
That's not everybody.
Some people have regrets because, hey, we had this big argument or things like that, and I never was able to make it right with my child. But that wasn't the case. We loved each other, and we always said that.
Because I know when Asia would go back to school, when she was at Columbia College, and I would go stand at the door. And I would stand at the door until she pulled out and drove off, and she would beep and away. And even every time she came home, when it was time for her to get ready to leave, I had to make sure that I prayed over before she got back on the road, and that I was there. Yes. It was never a time that she got ready to go back to college that I wasn't there to see her drive off. Those are the things that just give me solace, and just gives me peace.
Yeah. Every time when you think about different things, different events or different things that took place, it does give you peace, and then you can laugh about the funny things and what they was. Always, because he was a jokester, he was always doing something. So, and just thinking about different things like that, just make you smile. And I guess thinking about heaven and knowing that heaven is real. So, knowing that they are at a place that they wouldn't want to come back from. That's the only way you get through it, if you have to think about it in a spiritual realm. And that's something you can't get through it. Like if I keep on thinking about it earthly, we're gonna have our times and moments, but it will just almost tear you down, because when you think about it that way. But just thinking about that, we know that they are in a better place, and that makes it up.
And there was God. Woo.
Yeah.
So for a mother that's listening, that they might have just lost their son in a car accident. what would you say to them?
I would say just know that they are at peace, that they are with God. That's the only way they can get through it, and that they're happy and praying that they didn't, suffer, and that it will get time. It'll get better. You never get over this. The longest we live here on this earth, we would grieve our child.
Mm-hmm.
Long as we live here. Only way we don't grieve them is when we die.
When we die. I know.
But as long as we here on this earth, if I live, I'm 53. If I live 50 more years, if I live 103, I'm going to grieve him because that was part of me. So just telling another mother, just hang on. Please get counseling as soon as possible. And then lean into the people that your village that's there for you, that you know is truly there for you to help get you through, because you're going to have some days that you don't even know whether you're going or coming.
I know. Whoa.
Can't move. All you want to do is stay in that bed and cover your head. But that's when you have to have those other people that's going to be there for you. They'll let you waddle for a little while before they say, come on, let's get up.
And then when you think about the first holiday, then the Christmas, the Thanksgiving, the birthday, everything.
It's almost like you relive everything all over again. Everything. And then the first anniversary to it's like you go through that. When you wake up that morning, you think about what you was doing at that time, and when you got the call and all that. You go through it.
And I remember talking to someone, and they asked the question, why do people get the T-shirts with their children's name on them? Why do they have the balloon releases? Why do they still have birthday parties or a happy birthday? Why do they still celebrate the person and they're not here? So what would be your answer to that? Why do you think we still celebrate the person by doing all these things and they're not here? What's your reason for still doing it?
Because that's still our child. They may not be here on earth, but that's still still our child. And then we just want to, we showing them love. We showing them that we hadn't forgotten. We will not forget. And I think that's part of a lot of people's reason for doing everything. Let them know that you are relevant.
That's relevant.
Yes.
And that's when I thought, I thought about their names matter, because we don't want anyone to forget our child. We don't want anyone to forget our child. So when I remember when it was National Daughters Day, and I pondered on whether or not I should say anything about Asia, and it just kept toying with me. And I put something on there, and someone inboxed me and told me that she doesn't have, it's not a National Daughters Day. She doesn't have any more birthdays. Child of God or woman of God don't do as the pagans do. And I know. And I texted her back, and I'm like, who are you talking to? You don't even know me that well. And I told her, how dare you? Because she said she doesn't go to her her mother's grave, because let the dead rest and all this stuff. And I'm like, how you going to compare my child to your mother?
You
don't even know me.
That's too grief.
And I told her,
your parents.
And I told her, if I was a different person, if I was the person I used to be, because she was a cosmetologist, if I was the person that I used to be, I would have come to your salon and I would have dragged you out of that salon, because you don't have a right to come. You don't have to.
Because we still protect
boundaries you don't cross.
Because we still parents. No matter if they hear, we are parents. So we're going to still be that protective parent that if you say something crazy about our child, they may not be here on earth, but they still lived, and they still live in us. You know, this.
Yes.
So we can go. Yeah, we are very protective. So don't say the wrong thing. Yes, and
Yeah,
sometimes you
no.
wonder how people have the audacity to say things that they say.
Yes. What makes you feel you have the right?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I tell a lot of people, if you don't know what to say when somebody passed, just don't say anything at all. Don't say anything. You could just give a hug, love. Just say, I have no words. Because, different things that you say to people, they remember that. You may not remember, but you can say things that hurt them, and then that sticks with them like,
Yeah, that has stuck with me for 8 years.
yes.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because that's still your
So,
daughter. She mattered. She mattered.
yes.
She matters to you.
So
Yeah.
how did Mitchell make you a better person when he was living?
I
And
tell
how has his passing made you a better person?
When he was living, he made me a better person because he was the reason I went to nursing school. So, I always wanted to strive to do everything I did for him because, of course, it was just me and him for the 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, he just made me want to do better in every aspect of my life. In his passing, I would say, maybe, now that I have to step it up more, taking more responsibilities, of course, with the kids. So it's making me better in different ways, I would say, of the, with the passing, just, I guess, doing more. But I know that he always, his thing was, Mom, I want you to be happy. He always told me that.
Are you
So,
happy?
mhm. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, am I living my best life right now? No, I can say that. No, I'm not. But I'm happy. I'm doing things, um, raising Ava and different things like that. So, um, but I think this year I'm just trying to do some things a little differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel you have joy?
Uh, yeah, yeah, I have joy.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I have joy.
Good. Good.
Yeah, and these kids,
You're
they
doing a
you have, they make sure between Michaela and Maya and Ava and Aaron, um, they keep me pretty busy.
I think you're doing an awesome job. I remember your kids from little girls, and
Yes.
I've seen the stages of them growing up. And I don't get to see you as much now. I'm not there, or, but I see what they're doing. I see what they've accomplished. And I think I'm going to tell you, I think you're doing an awesome job as a
Thank you.
mother and a daughter, because you're a great daughter to your mother.
Yes, I have to look out for her.
Yeah,
I
you
know
are
you're
a
a great
great
daughter to your
daughter.
mom. You like me. We have to look out. We look
Because
out for our
sometimes
parents.
we don't give ourselves enough credit. So
Yeah.
just give yourself a little bit more credit. And whatever it is you're feeling, feel it. God's got you. And you just keep striving, and we all gonna be okay. We're
Yeah.
here, we're surviving. You did this.
I
You
know.
did.
Yes, I was able to yeah.
Yeah, you
Do
did
more.
this.
We have so many people that are grieving. So when you started this, it was like it was much needed because nobody was. I mean, grief. We don't talk about it enough. Look at this. We don't talk about grief enough.
Mhm.
And then we not helping. Like the more we talk about it and get out there, the more we can help other mothers because it's so many mothers don't feel like that they can put another foot in front of the other,
Mhm.
take another step, can get up, and
Mhm.
so we need to be there for those mothers and
Yes. Yes. So
find.
is there anything else that you would like to say before we close?
No, I think that Thank you for having me. And I really admire you and your strength. You have been very encouraging to me. I've been watching you, and it's really encouraging to watch you and just see the growth that I see in you. It's just like you have turned into a completely different flower that's boom. But and I know that your daughter is
It's
very,
all God.
yeah. But I know your daughter is very proud and just up there rooting you on. So
And being Angel's mother. Ooh.
yes.
Yes. So this is the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Name 3 things that has helped you to survive.
I would say family, faith, and love. Just
Family, faith, and love.
Yeah.
Family, faith, and love. I am so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is going to help someone. This is going to help someone.
That's why I really want to help someone to, if I can just give them any kind of encouragement to see what I've gone through, what you've gone through, that hey, you keep on pushing, don't give up. You can't give up. That's the only thing. We still here.
We're still here. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you.
All right. My eye itch.